Hey guys, welcome to yet another Disney ranking video here on the channel. Last time we looked at the Disney Renaissance and I had such a fun time looking at all those films and ranking them for you guys. It was just a great era of Disney animation, and so we are going to be moving forward with the post-Renaissance, consisting of 11 films and taking place between 2000 and 2008. The post-Renaissance era is really a tumultuous time for Disney animation. It seems that with every great era of Disney animation, there follows an era that is a bit lesser. The films just aren't as good as the previous era, and that is definitely something that we see with the post-Renaissance. We saw it with the wartime era, we saw it with the transitional era, and we see it here. But there are still some great things about this era that I feel like people just kind of forget about. This is considered one of the worst eras in Disney animation, and it definitely has its downs, but it also has its ups, which makes it a really interesting era. Now, this isn't just something that came out of the blue. This era wasn't bad from the start. It really is a transition from the later films of the Renaissance era. Now, I absolutely loved the Renaissance era, but you can definitely see during that era a high Renaissance and a low Renaissance, where the films were good, even great, but they weren't making the big numbers that they were at the beginning of the Renaissance. And so we see that transition over into the post-Renaissance, where we get some overly ambitious films, incredibly animated films, and we also get some of the most mediocre offerings that Disney has ever produced, but it's not all bad. There are some diamonds in the rough. It's really a catch-all era if you really think about it, because there's movies in this era that I absolutely love, movies that I don't like at all, and then there's a bunch of films that are just good. Nothing special. Some of them are special, some of them I think are underrated, but overall it's a very interesting era of Disney animation that I think needs to be discussed more and looked into a lot more. So anyway guys, let's get started with number 11. And at number 11, this will come probably as no surprise to anyone. It is considered by many to be the worst Disney animated film of all time, and it is mine as well, and that is Chicken Little. I really did not like this film at all. I loved this film as a kid, and I want to slap my younger self because this was a painful movie to sit through. It's a comedy, but most of the comedy just comes from reference jokes to other pop culture things, and that's really all you get out of it. That stuff I actually did kind of laugh at, but like, it wasn't true comedy. It was really poorly done. The characters are not that memorable, and this movie is incredibly mean-spirited, and I just didn't enjoy watching that because, like, everybody is so cruel and mean in this film, and I just didn't enjoy that at all. Also, this is Disney's first true, fully CGI animated film, and it really does show. It's not quite there at like levels of Tangled and Frozen. Like, those movies look fantastic, but this one you kind of see how rough it is around the edges. The textures aren't fantastic, the animation is just not quite there, but it is still vibrant and colorful enough, and I think it has interesting ideas. I like the whole idea that the sky is falling, it being aliens, but they just don't do a good job with this film overall, and I think it is an extremely disappointing film from Disney, because this is the one Disney film that I'm like, this is bad. At number 10, we have a film that I still really do not like, and that is Home on the Range. This is one of the most bland, generic Disney films I've ever seen. It is a 2D animated film, and the animation is good, but like, there's nothing about it that really stands out. It is just a story about cows, and it's just really not that entertaining. There's some funny moments in this film. I did laugh a couple of times, not out loud or anything, but there was some moments where the comedy was, I thought, pretty solid. Jennifer Tilly, Judi Dench are all really good, but I found Roseanne Barr's character just really annoying and insufferable. But this film does have Cuba Gooding Jr. as a horse. He is the best character of this movie. He is absolutely hilarious, but overall, this film is just so forgettable, and there's just nothing about it that really stands out. The music is fine, the animation is fine, but, like, there's nothing about this film that makes me like, oh, I want to rewatch that. It is definitely just one of the most mediocre Disney films I've ever seen. It's close to being Chicken Little levels of bad, but because, like, it gets really, really bad near the end, but it's not terrible. At number 9, we have DINOSAUR, which is a very unique and interesting Disney film combining CGI as well as live action, which I actually didn't know this until, like, last night when one of my friends explained to me that a lot of the film's backgrounds are real. And I was like, oh, that's why the backgrounds look so beautiful, because they're real. But sometimes I think they're a little enhanced. But overall, this movie is visually beautiful to look at. The CGI with the dinosaurs is sometimes not as great. In fact, they really stick out when it shows the backgrounds and everything. But I think this is a very ambitious and interesting film from Disney. The weakest part of this movie is definitely its script and its characters. They just feel so tacked on and generic, but there is some visual wonder. The beginning of this film is absolutely great. The scene where the asteroids are falling it's just a great scene overall, but really there's just nothing about this film that keeps me emotionally invested. It isn't a bad Disney film. It is definitely one of the weaker Disney films, but I really like the ambition that was brought into this film. It is something truly different that we weren't getting from other Disney films for the past, like, several decades, but overall, it just doesn't leave an impact on me. At number 8, this might surprise a lot of people because I know there's quite a few people that really, really like or even love this film, but it's going to be Meet the Robinsons. Meet the Robinsons is a fine movie. In fact, there are plenty of stuff that I really, really like about this film. I really enjoyed the first act of this film. I think the setup is brilliantly done. I love the character of Lewis and his journey trying to, figure out about his family and his mother. I love that setup, and I think the ending of this film is incredibly well done with some great music, and just, it's beautiful how the story comes to a great, satisfying ending. However, I think the middle of this film is the film's weakest portion. I find the family, the Robinsons, just really annoying and just not that entertaining. I found the villain, especially like the reveal with the villain, very predictable. This film is very cliche in a lot of ways, and that's what makes it so disappointing. It is a good kids film, but there's just not enough here for adults. I think there is some great moments here and there, but with the family being incredibly annoying and in times juvenile, the cliche villain with, some reveals that you see a mile away, and just a very schmaltzy tone with a ending that is great, but also when you have a film ending with a Disney quote, you are trying to get some sympathy points, and I just hate it when movies end with a quote to make you feel sad, and it just didn't feel genuine. It's still a pretty good film, but just not something that I'm gonna remember as well, except for the moments that I really did like the ending and the character of Lewis. At number 7, we have Fantasia 2000, the first film of the post-Renaissance era. I really enjoyed this film, and I thought that it was such a great idea because Disney wanted to do other Fantasia movies, and we finally get it here, and I think it is very beautiful and ambitious, and I love the music in this film. The song choices are very well done. The animation, especially mixed with CGI, is absolutely gorgeous. I love the scene of the flying whales. However, I just don't think that many of the shorts in this film really reach the heights of what was in that original Fantasia film. However, the film is also bogged down by celebrity cameos that just aren't that entertaining, and at times really insufferable and bad. However, the animation segments are beautiful, some of the stories are really engaging, but it just doesn't reach the heights of the original Fantasia or a lot of what Disney has to offer with their other films. It's a good film, but not a great film. And also, it shows the Sorcerer's Apprentice in this film, and it shows it in the 4:3 aspect ratio, which is from the original Fantasia. I think also something that would have been really unique with showing this story again would be if, like, they turned it into widescreen, if they adapted that short into widescreen, really making that short worthwhile in this film. But that's just something for me, but overall, it's a good film. At number 6, we have Treasure Planet, which is a beautiful Disney film. This is probably the best 2D animation I have seen in a Disney film. What they are able to do with 2D animation and blending it with CGI is absolutely incredible. However, this film is just, at times, rather dull and a bit silly. The concept of Treasure Planet in space is a silly idea, and many people have talked about this, but I think overall the story and the movie is a really fun story with some emotional weight to it. I really like the relationship between Gem and Silver. I think that truly is the heart of the film and the best stuff in the film. However, there just really isn't any connective tissue with this film to really get me to care about everybody in this film. The characters, for the most part, are kind of stock and forgettable. It is definitely a film that feels the most early 2000s out of any of these Disney films, and has a song in the movie that feels so out of place. And overall, this is a good film, but I feel like it could have been better. But overall, still a fun film, has some great moments to it, but is kind of forgettable with some things that just, if it had another draft, I think this film would have been fantastic. At number 5, we have Atlantis: The Lost Empire, which is a very underrated Disney film, I feel, and is one of the most unique Disney films that I think they have ever done. This film feels so different. It is definitely an adventure film like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea or Journey to the Center of the Earth, and I think that's what makes it such a fun film. It is an adventure film, and it feels like a live-action film that was put to 2D animation, and it is absolutely a blast to watch with beautiful animation that rivals Treasure Planet in a lot of ways. I love it. I think the characters are a lot of fun. Sadly, all of them are not that memorable, but I really like the story. I like the concept. The realization of Atlantis is beautiful to watch. The villains are definitely this film's weakest point. They are kind of forgettable and just generic villains. But I think this is a very underrated Disney film that I think people really should check out more. It's beautifully animated, it's fun, it's adventurous, and it's just very different from the other Disney films that were coming out at this time. It feels more adult in a lot of ways. At number 4, Brother Bear is probably, to me, the most underrated Disney film of all time. This film has a 37% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is the same score that Chicken Little has. And I'm just like, how can anybody compare this movie to Chicken Little? I really, really enjoy this film, and I almost love it, if not for a few mishaps in the middle of the film. I absolutely love the beginning of this film. The first act is absolutely wonderful, learning about this Inuit tribe and learning about these characters, these brothers, and the hardships they go through. I think it is beautifully animated. The animation in this film is very underrated, and the third act of this film is phenomenal, with great animation, great character moments, and it's really fulfilling with great music, great drama. However, this film's weakest component is the second act, which has some very weak comedy in it. I actually do like the Canadian moose in this film. Some people don't find them really funny. I actually kind of liked them. But the character of Coda, the young cub, is kind of annoying. There's this moment that should have been like the pinnacle of this film, that should have been wonderful, is ruined by a Phil Collins song that just feels so out of place. It tells you how you're supposed to feel, and it kind of ruins the scene for me. This film is just extremely underrated. I think it's not a perfect film, but it is a film that I genuinely love and think needs more recognition. At number 3, we have Bolt, which is the last film of the post-Renaissance, and really shows that Disney was definitely going into a better direction at the end of this era, after some mishaps with several movies that just were critical failures or just didn't have the box office returns that they were hoping for. I think this is a really good film and a step in the right direction for what would be the Disney revival age. And I think this is such a fun and creative film, being the first film that John Lasseter really had his hands in as the lead over at Disney Animation. I think this film feels the most Pixar in a lot of ways. The animation, the CGI animation, is a lot better and a lot crisper than something like Chicken Little and Meet the Robinsons. It is beautiful to look at, and I absolutely love the story. I love the character of Bolt and his journey. I thought this film was incredibly funny, and I just think it had a lot of heart to it. It was extremely entertaining. I love the concept of the story about this dog that thinks he's a super dog but is actually part of a TV show, and learning about, the real world along the way. I think it's a fun film. I think it's a little underrated. I absolutely loved this film. It's not one of my favorite Disney animated films, but it is definitely up there as a really good Disney film. At number 2, we have The Emperor's New Groove, and I absolutely love this film. This is one of my favorite Disney films of all time. I think this is also perhaps Disney's funniest film. I love the comedy in this film. I think David Spade just does an excellent job in this film. He is incredibly funny, witty. I love the character of Cusco and his journey with Pacha. I think they make for a great buddy team. I love the villains. Kronk is hilarious, and Eartha Kitt as Yzma is absolutely perfection. One of my favorite Disney villains. I love the animation in this film. I love the characters. I love the comedy. I love the story. I think it's just such a fun and unique Disney film overall. It is just such a fun film to watch, and it's crazy that it ended up as good as it was, being that this film went through such a tumultuous production cycle, originally being a movie called Kingdom of the Sun, and then transforming its story into something completely different. I think it's just a miracle that this film still ended up being a good film overall. I love this film, guys. It's fantastic, and I don't know what else I could honestly say about it, but I absolutely love it. And at number 1, we have Lilo and Stitch. I watched some of this movie back in the day. I never saw it all the way through, but I always really enjoyed it. And watching it this time, I got the same feeling I got when I watched The Little Mermaid, which is a film I absolutely fell in love with. And from minute one, I absolutely fell in love with Lilo and Stitch. This film is an extremely powerful film that I absolutely love, with some deep themes about family and just sticking together. I think the character of Lilo is perhaps one of my favorite Disney characters of all time. Her struggle with her sister as her sister's trying to take care of her, and you know, she just doesn't fit in. She's very eccentric and weird to a lot of people, and there's this idea that, you know, she might be taken away from her sister by child services. And then we throw aliens into the mix, which really shouldn't work, but I think the character of Stitch is absolutely wonderful. I think what he learns throughout this film is beautiful. The revelations in this film, how he changes and how Lilo changes, is just amazing and extremely heartwarming. This is one of my favorite Disney films of all time. It is in my top 5 for sure. I absolutely love this film. If nobody has seen this film, please, please, please check it out. I love it. The animation is great. The characters are great. It is a really funny movie and also has just a beautiful soundtrack with lush animation. Guys, I can't talk about this film enough. I love it. It is definitely the best of the Disney post-Renaissance. And that, guys, is my ranking for the Disney post-Renaissance. I hope you guys enjoyed this ranking overall. This was a lot of fun to do. It's not the best Disney era, but it is still a fun era with some great stuff, but also some pretty bad stuff as well. But what did you guys think of my rankings overall? Was I right on the money, or should I change and never make a video again? I want to know what your guys' rankings are of this era, because I would be really interested. Is Chicken Little really the worst of this era? I want to know. But anyway, guys, thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, I will be doing another Disney ranking video. It will be my last Disney ranking video for the Disney eras, with the revival era, which I am very excited to finally talk about, and kind of sad that this is the last era to talk about, because I have enjoyed doing these Disney ranking videos and watching all these Disney films, and it's sad to see that it is almost over. But look forward to that video coming soon, and as always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next review.